Hello everybody, I'm Raphael Perry and it's time for some more Lone Wolf. And we're continuing Fire on the Water. I'm picking up where I left off. In our last episode we had made it back to the point that we previously reached on our first attempt. Sorry, I'm still a little under the weather. And this time we heeded the warning of the Sals and did not fight with the dreaded Helghast. So we do not have the magical enchanted silver spear. This will become very important later on for two reasons. Well, three reasons in a way. But for now, we simply do not have it in our possession. You have been walking for nearly 2 hours when you reach the peak of a hill and see the Gerenor forest stretched out before you. The road bears eastwards and enters the trees at a point where a large wooden tower has been built. You can see the silhouette of a soldier on guard. We can approach the tower or avoid the guard and make a wide detour using the cover of the forest so we are not spotted. We shall approach the tower. And are we wounded? We are. Excellent. Glad I remembered. Once again, we have the Kai Discipline of Healing, so we heal a pointer section as long as it's not a combat section. You are less than 20 yards from the tower when the guard steps forwards and demands to know your business. You notice that the soldier is wearing the red coat of a Duranese man-at-arms and realise that you have reached the border of Gerenor. You need to find some way of getting past him. We do have the Kai Discipline of Sixth Sense, which will allow us to be restored to full health. While realizing, you can sense that this guard is a loyal Duranese soldier. If you were to attempt to bribe him, he would be likely to consider it a grave insult and attack you. We could show him the seal of Hamadal, or, preferring not to show it, unless we absolutely have to, pretend to be a merchant on our way to Port Bax. We will show him the seal of Hamadal. He is a loyal Duranese soldier. And while he may talk and give away a little information later on, he's not going to act against us necessarily. The guard stares at the magnificent ring in awe. The legend of the seal of Hamadal is well known to the people of Gerenor. It is said that of all the lost treasures of the Duranese, the seal of Hamadal is one that they would not wish returned. The guard's anxious face shows he clearly recognizes the ring's dreadful significance. It's like the red arrow in The Lord of the Rings. Oh, did they completely miss that out of the film? Yes, they blatantly bloody well did. And replaced it with some shitty beacon fires. Yeah, in the books, Denethor, Steward of Gondor, actually actively, personally sends the red arrow to Rohan and has his messengers deliver it. It is the sign that he calls on them for aid. He wasn't an evil person against it. He just didn't expect they would actually come, or that they would come too late to aid him. And it was only through the aid of the Woses, the Pukelmen, who helped guide King Theoden's army through the dead marshes safely, that they were actually able to arrive in time to assist the defence of Minas Tirith. Anyway, I will not hinder your urgent mission, but I cannot help you except to set you on the road for Port Bax. Continue on this forest path, and you will come to a fork near a stunted oak tree. Take the left track. It is the quickest way. You thank the loyal guard and push on once more into the forest. A mile or so along the road, you come to the fork and take the left track. It leads to a stone bridge across the Rime Rift. The waters of the Rime Rift are over 1 mile deep and up to 2 miles at its widest point. Near to the bridge you find a signpost. Portbacks, 3 miles. You breathe a sigh of relief, for you should arrive there in under an hour. I mean, only if you're travelling very quickly. Oh no, wait, we're on a horse. No, we're not on a horse. Vassals stole it. Given it takes about half an hour. No, that's really... Lone Wolf walks at 6 miles an hour? That's pretty unrealistic. That's got to be jogging or something, or running. At dusk on the 10th day of your quest, you experience your first sight of the magnificent city of Portbacks. Like a diamond set in the green velvet shore, the towers of the city glimmer in the pale light of a waxing moon. To the north is the harbour and the formidable war fleet of the Duranese navy. To the east, beyond the moss-covered city walls, stretches the forest of Jorenor, and there, on the crest of a hill, stands a castle, tall and proud, the crowning glory of this beautiful port. You enter Portbacks through an unguarded gate in the green city wall and make your way through the darkening streets towards the harbour. As you turn into a tree-lined avenue, you notice the wide stone steps of a domed building to your right. You stop to read the brass plaque, City Hall. Despite the late hour, the main doors are open. We do have the Kai discipline of tracking. Therefore, and this isn't a if you wish to use it, this is just if you have it. You try to remember some of the stories told to you by an old Kai master called Wise Hawk. He was envoy to Portbacks for many years, and he knew and loved this city as well as any native Duranese. You recall him saying that the consulate overlooked Allen Square in the naval quadrant of the city. There is a sign to your left pointing along the avenue. Naval quadrant, half a mile. Certain this is the right direction, you walk confidently along the tree-lined avenue. At the end of the avenue, the cobbled street turns abruptly to the right. Opposite this point is a tall white stone building with a plaque above the door. Port Watchtower, Harbour Authority. You can see that the cobbled street ends at a high stone wall. There is a large red gate in this wall, and it is guarded by 2 soldiers. Beyond the gate you can make out the masts of ships moored in the harbour. We can enter the watchtower, or approach the red gate. Let us enter the watchtower. You are standing in a large empty hall. Opposite are 2 doors, each with a brass sign above them. We may enter the door marked white passes, or the door marked red passes, or we can leave and approach the guards by the gate at the end of the street. Let's enter the red passes chamber. You enter a large room full of ledgers and files. A man wearing the uniform of a Duranese naval officer is seated opposite at a large desk. He peers at you inquisitively from behind a huge book and says, "You must have pressing business in the naval quadrant to apply for a red pass at this late hour. I shall need to see your access papers and proof of your commanding officer's authorization." We do not have the documents he requires, but we may show him the seal of Hamadal, and I'm going to do that. The man stares at the seal with a look of shocked dismay. Without saying a word, he gets up from his chair and beckons you to follow him up a flight of spiral stairs that lead to a domed chamber. Here you meet the captain of the port watch. He listens intently as you tell of the war in Sommerlund and of your urgent mission. "Issue a red pass immediately," he orders. "Top priority." You collect your red pass, leave the port watchtower and hurry along the street towards the harbour guards. Mark the red pass on your action sheet as a special item. We shall absolutely do that. One of the guards steps forwards and demands to see your pass. We have a red pass. The soldier salutes and allows you to pass through the red gate. You walk into an open square lit by the tall beacons lining the quayside. To your relief, you sight the marble pillars of the Sommerswerd consulate and the familiar sun flag of your country flying above it in the fresh night breeze. As you climb the stone steps, you are recognized by the Sommerswerd guards on duty at the main door. They disappear inside and quickly return in the company of a tall, grey-haired official. His anguished expression suddenly changes to a smile of joy as he beholds your ragged kai cloak and tunic. "Hope beyond hope! Thank the gods that you live, Kai Lord! The scant news that has reached us from the west has caused us great alarm." You are ushered inside and taken immediately to the envoy of Sommerswerd, Lord Lieutenant Rygar. Your first meeting with the Lord Lieutenant comes as something of a shock. You had perhaps half expected him to be a servile old man, as are the envoys of the southern lands that plague your king's court with their delegations. The man clad in heavy chainmail standing before you is neither old nor senile. You are soon to learn that Lord Lieutenant Rygar is an exceptional man. Born of a Sommerswerd father and a Durinese mother, he has become something of a legend in this city. In the last decade, he has led an alliance of the nations to victory against the invading ice barbarians of Kalt, who we will be meeting in the next book. Wise in peace, fierce in war, you could not have wished for better company on your quest for the Sommerswerd. Rygar orders that a sumptuous meal be served. It is by far the best food you have tasted since the war began. During the feast, you recall the events that have brought you to Port Bax, and reflect on the daunting challenge that still lies before you. After the meal, Rygar sends for his physician to attend to your wounds. His potions restore 6 endurance points. Fortunately, healing that was not necessary. Then he advises you to sleep, for you are to leave with the Lord Lieutenant for Hammerdal in the morning. Section 1. If you do not have a backpack, you may choose to assume that you are outfitted with one by Rygar. Presumably we will be required to pick up backpack items at some point in the future then. Early next day you are taken to an enclosed garden at the rear of the consulate, where Rygar and 3 of his best soldiers await you on horseback. They are to be your bodyguard and guides on the 230-mile ride to Hammerdal. The streets of Port Bax are just beginning to come to life as you ride through the town. Passing under the moss-covered city gate, you now feel confident that your mission will succeed. Little do you know how ridiculously difficult the next section of the book can be. We are requested to make a random roll, so let's do that. Our random number is a 2. So be it then. For 3 days and nights... Oh, we are opening this picture. Absolutely. Lord Lieutenant Rygar has now donned heavy battle plate over his mail for added protection. This is clearly a dangerous and vital mission. For 3 days and nights you have ridden along the highway as it follows its route up the river valley of the Jurenon. In the distance are the peaks of the Hammerdal Mountains, one of the highest ranges in all Magnamund. The capital lies at the very centre of those mountains. It is now the morning of the 14th day of your quest. You have made camp near a waterfall where the vast flowing Jurenon drops 120 feet. You are about to leave when a group of 6 hooded riders appears on the forest highway above, blocking your exit from the camp. Lord Lieutenant Rygar demands that they let you pass, adding that you bear a royal dispatch. In Jurenor it is a treasonable offence to hinder a king's messenger, but unfortunately the cloaked riders do not seem impressed by his warning, as they remain where they are. "If you do not care for treason, perhaps our swords will turn your tails," says Rygar. He draws his sword and orders his men to attack. We do have the Kai discipline of 6th sense. And I would point out there are 6 riders here. It will make sense later on. There is a strong aura of evil surrounding these cloaked riders. Your Kai sense warns you not to follow Rygar and his men on their impetuous charge. You shout a warning to them to stop them attacking, but it is too late. You cannot be heard above their battle cries and the thundering hooves of their mounts. As Rygar and his men gallop nearer to the riders, one of the cloaked horsemen draws a black staff from beneath his robes. A fierce blue flame shoots from its tip and explodes beneath Rygar's horse, sending him head over heels into the dense undergrowth. Rygar's men furiously attack with their swords. Their sharp blades slice clean through their enemies' cloaks and bodies. Then you realize that they are having no effect. For these are Helghasts, fell captains of the Darklords. They have the ability to adopt human form, but they are invulnerable to normal weapons. The cloaked staff-bearer gives a hideous laugh that tears at your mind. He is using a very powerful mind blast against you. You know you're outnumbered by a superior enemy, and you must act quickly if you are to survive their ambush at all. We can abandon our horse and dive for cover in the thick undergrowth, or aid Rygar's men. There's 6 Helghasts. We're not going to survive that. We're going to dive for cover, hide, and escape if we can. You come to rest face downwards in a tangle of thick bracken. The ringing of steel and the horrible cries of the Helghast echo through the trees around you. You are stunned and cannot move until a hand grabs your arm and pulls you upright. It is Rygar. His face is bloodied and his armour is battered and charred. "We must flee these demons, Lone Wolf. Strength and steel will not avail us here." If you have not already been told, the Helghasts are the riders who attacked your party. Helghasts are fell captains of the Darklords. Yeah, we have already been told, so it is possible to somehow miss that introduction. You glimpse the silhouette of 6 Helghasts on the forest road above, their minds bent on the slaughter of Rygar's men. They fail to see you both slip away under cover of the wooded hillside. For 6 hours you run without rest. The Helghasts are on the highway, and you are forced to make your way through the steep and wooded foothills to avoid the risk of capture. Many times you feel that you just cannot go on, and the pain and fatigue are too much to bear. But each time you falter, you are spurred on by Rygar. You marvel at his endurance, for he is not a young man, and he is clothed in the heavy armour of a Somlending knight. By nightfall you have reached the entrance to Tarna Linn, the western tunnel through the Hammerdal Mountains. The 3 tunnels of Durenor were excavated during the age of the Black Moon, and each tunnel is over 40 miles long and passes through the huge circle of the Hammerdal Range to the capital. The tunnels provide the only access to the city. And does this, or does this not, look a bit like the mountains all the way around Mordor? You could think of the tunnel leading through Shelob's lair, but anyway, I digress. Rygar sits beside you and takes some bread and meat from his pack. "Eat this, Lone Wolf. You must sustain your strength for the journey to Hammerdal, for from here you must venture alone through the Tarna Linn. I shall remain here and hold the enemy back for as long as I have the strength to fight. Do not argue. That your mission should succeed is the only thing that matters. If Rygar is to hold off the Helghast, he will need a magic weapon, as his own sword is of no use against the creatures. See the erratum for this section for details of the gameplay changes made in this section. Note, the result of the choices presented here are discussed. I will blatantly open this, and we will read it in full. So we have 2 options. If you wish to give him your magic spear so that he can defend the tunnel entrance, or if you do not possess a magic spear, turn to section 118. If you possess a magic spear but do not wish to give it to Rygar, turn to section 102. Now, errata, we are at section 299, and it's a big one. The original edition of this book reads, "If you wish to give him your magic spear so that he can defend the tunnel entrance, turn to section 102. Which, in this version, is the "if you want to keep it" option. If you do not possess a magic spear or do not wish to give it to Rygar, turn to section 118. So, the if you don't have a magic spear is lumped with the keeping the magic spear and not giving it to him. I think that's the version of the book I am used to. Let's continue. Later editions came out reversing these two choices, i.e. the first choice leads to section 118, the second choice to section 102. Both of these versions are very problematic to game flow and inspired a controversy among the members of Project Aeon. The version that you see in our text is a mixed scenario intended to closely match the author's surmised original intention, even though it does not appear in either previously published version. If you wish to use either of the previously published versions, then refer to the appropriate choice as listed here. Discussion of the different versions follows. Original version. The choices appear to serve no other purpose other than punishing Lone Wolf with certain death for mercifully handing Rygar the spear. The fact that this version was revised, and the path that Lone Wolf is given in the Legends of Lone Wolf series, the novels, also both appear to refute the correctness of this version. So, therefore in the novels, Lone Wolf must give the spear to Rygar, but not be sent to section 102, but rather to section 118. Revised version. Under this version, it is impossible for Lone Wolf to succeed without taking the left path back at the beginning of the Gerenor Forest, section 150, ignoring the warning of the Sarls, and fighting the Helghast. This directly contradicts the statement in Kai Wisdom that a wise choice of disciplines enables you to succeed regardless of your starting combat skill and endurance scores. Project Aeon version. Although never previously published, this scenario earns Lone Wolf to succeed despite giving the magic spear to Rygar. Also replaced Hammerdale Mountains with Hammerdale Mountains, capital M, replaced Hammerdale Range with Hammerdale Range, capital R for range, replaced Spear So with Spear So, removing the comma after Spear. Now, let's address this. We do not have the magic spear, so we will go to section 118. However, we would originally have been sent to section 102, which would lead to 2 potential showdowns with a pair of Helghasts who are hiding in the tunnels through the mountains, lying in wait for us. And either Helghast is a fight. Well, no, it's not a fight. We can auto-kill one of the Helghasts with the magic spear if we have it. But both the Helghasts will auto-kill us if we do not. So essentially, in the original version, if you give away the spear, you are placed in a situation where you can go left or right. Each version leads to a Helghast, and you don't have the spear, so they kill you. Whereas if you decide to keep the spear, you get to head to section 118, which we will have to go to anyway, and you get to see this picture, which can lead to a warning about the Helghasts, a workaround so that you don't have to face them, or if you don't have animal kinship, you get to go fight a Helghast with your magic spear and kill it automatically and carry on. So essentially, in the original version, if you didn't have the magic spear, or gave it away, the game said, tough, you didn't get the magic spear earlier, or you gave it up. You die now. So Rygar must be left to die with nothing to aid him. That is very unfortunate. I believe the Mongoose version had, the options reversed, so you can give him the spear and then go on and meet the Nudnik. Anyway, let us do that. Oh, and remember when I said to pay attention to the fact there were 6 riders? Well, so there was one Helghast who had been looking for us in the area, who had been slain by a knight of the White Mountain, I think somewhere between Gorn Cove and Port Backs. There are 6 between Port Backs and the mountain range, and 2 in the mountain range. Oh look, 9 black riders. It's like the Fellowship of the Ring. Let's continue. And there's a picture we will absolutely be opening. There might even be another one we'll be opening soon. You bid Rygar farewell and enter Tarnalin. After about over 100 feet in height and width, the tunnel runs to the capital on the far side of the Hamadal range and is lit by torches for its entire length. The highway through the mountain is usually alive with the traffic of merchants to and from Port Backs, yet now the entrance and interior are deserted except for an overturned fruit wagon. As you walk deeper into Tarnalin, a doubt nags at you. Have the Helghast arrived here first? You have been walking for over an hour when you see a strange creature on top of a wagon in the road ahead. It is 2 feet high and resembles an overgrown marsh rat. You assume it is some sort of tunnel-dwelling rodent until you notice it is wearing a splendid jacket of patched leather and carrying what appears to be a spear. As you get nearer, it suddenly turns to face you. Its whiskered nose is sniffing the air and its bright black eyes peering into the gloom. It sees you and scampers off into the darkness of a smaller tunnel to your left. We possess the ability of animal kinship. Indeed, we've had it since the first book. You recognize the creature to be a Nudnik, an intelligent but mischievous mountain-dwelling native of Durenor. The Nudniks inhabit a maze of smaller shafts and fissures that honeycomb the Hamadal Mountains and live off whatever they can steal from the merchant caravans that travel the Tarnalin. It occurs to you that if you can catch the Nudnik, you might be able to learn if the Helghast are hiding within the tunnel. Let's follow the Nudnik. You chase the furry creature as it hurries along a narrow twisting passage for nearly 10 minutes, and are about to give up the chase when the passage opens out into a large torchlit cavern. A stunning sight greets your eyes. The cavern houses an entire colony of these strange creatures, all busy sorting through and examining a vast pile of strange objects littering the centre of the hall. We obviously possess the discipline of animal kinship because it got us here, but first, it is possible to follow without the disciplines, so that's why that is listed as an option at all. And this picture shall also be opened. A large Nudnik, wearing a brightly coloured cloak of patchwork silks, orders several of his people to arm themselves and drive you out of the hall. When you speak to them in their own language, a hush of astonishment fills the cavern. Never before have they encountered a human being who could actually speak their tongue. For some of them it is too much to grasp, and they stare at you open-mouthed, their furry little arms hanging loosely by their sides. Then the large Nudnik addresses you, saying he is the leader of this colony. His name is Gashgis, and he welcomes you and invites you to join him on top of a raised platform in the centre of the chamber. "You's not a Durenese man, eh? Where's a you's comes from, eh?" questions Gashgis in his strange Nudnik accent. And it's worth pointing out that while this may sound somewhat Italian, this is years, over a decade before the horrible atrocity, the crime against artistic sensibilities known as Jar Jar Binks. You tell him that you are some lending and on your way to Hamadal. He looks at you nervously and then asks, "Yous are not a black screamers, eh?" You realise that the black screamers that Gashgis refers to are the Helghasts. You learn that 2 of them arrived in Tarnalin over 2 hours ago and caused quite a panic in the main tunnel. Gashgis knows where they are lying in ambush waiting for you to appear. "I's a shows a you the way passin', eh?" he offers, and you nod in agreement and follow him down the steps of the platform to the hall below. The Nudniks seem to have overcome their shock and react to you now as if you were one of them. Before you leave, a pretty female Nudnik offers you some food for your journey ahead. There's enough for 2 meals, and we remind ourselves that meals each take up 1 space in the backpack. They do not stack. You thank her for her generosity and then follow Gashgis along one of the dark passages leading out of the cavern. After an hour of trekking through the dark, he stops and points towards a shaft of life that is light. Light! A shaft of light! A shaft of life would be brilliant. The sort of thing I might see if I were to start playing Wrath of the Righteous again. After an hour of trekking through the dark, he stops and points towards a shaft of light that is pouring through a crevice in the far distance. "Yous goes left, yous be safe," he says. You thank Gashgis for his help and silently thank your Kai masters who taught you the skill of animal kinship. For many years of instruction have probably saved your life. You squeeze through a fissure in the rock wall and drop 3 feet to the pathway below. You're thinking how kind the Nudniks were when you discovered they'd stolen all of your gold. You have to mark this on your action chart. Well, there goes all our money. It's fine. We weren't using it for anything. Let's continue along the tunnel, but first, I'd like to point out that in the original version of the book, which I am very used to, you only get to see the Nudniks if you still have the Silver Spear anyway, and didn't give it to Lord Lieutenant Rygar, which means you don't really need their help, and it's just an alternate path that you get to take for having that Kai discipline, so you don't have to use the Silver Spear to auto-kill or be auto-killed by Helghasts. And without it, you're just screwed. Which does mean the original version of this book was really harsh because you had to fight a combat skill 22, endurance 30 Helghast to even stand a chance of getting this far. And that is why I was so obsessed with trying to get hold of the Silver Spear, because I am used to it being necessary to succeed. It's a really hard book because of that flow. You have covered nearly 3 miles when you see a group of wagons in the distance. They have been strung out across the highway to form a barricade. Soldiers in red uniforms line the roofs of the wagons, and a large crowd of people have gathered behind them. You can hear their excited chatter echoing along the tunnel. As you get closer, there is a sudden silence as all eyes turn to stare at you. A detachment of 10 soldiers led by a knight whose shield bears the royal arms of Durenor advances towards you. We're not going to attack them. We'll raise our hands to show we come in peace and walk slowly towards them. Don't need to give anyone cause for alarm. People might get twitchy. Cautiously, the soldiers surround you and take your weapons and backpack. You do not need to adjust your action chart. The knight steps forward and raises the visor of his helm. Oh, before I continue, I did want to say, as far as I'm aware, the Nudniks never appear in the series again, but they are incredibly, unbelievably popular with the French and Italian Lone Wolf fans who love them to bits. And I love the fluffy little rat mice people who speak with strong Italian or like American gangster accents. And they talk about him a lot. "Who are you? What is your purpose in Tarnalin?" he demands in a gruff voice. You tell him that you are Kai Lord from Sommerlund on an urgent mission to King Allen. He seems unconvinced by your words until you show him the seal of Hamadal. Then, without hesitation, he orders his men to return your belongings and ushers you through the wall of wagons. Beyond, you can see a horse-drawn carriage waiting in the centre of the crowded tunnel. "Back to Hammerdal without delay," he orders the driver, and you are thrown back in your seat as the coach moves off at a breakneck speed. You soon learn that the knight is Lord Axim of Rhyme, commander of King Alin's personal bodyguard. He was on his way to Port Bax when the Helghast entered Tarnalin. He and 10 soldiers were the only ones to survive the deadly encounter with these creatures. During your ride through Tarnalin, you must eat a meal or lose 3 endurance points. Well, hey, guess what? We've been given 2 meals, so let's consume one of them right now. The journey to the capital will take 5 hours, and you are advised by Lord Axim to get some rest. As you slowly drift off to sleep, you begin to dream about the Sommerswerd. You picture a triumphant return to Holmgard and the defeat of the Darklords' siege. Perhaps it will be a good omen of events to come. I wonder if a certain section will have errata. I know what I'm going to do regarding that section, but I wonder if anyone else has thought of it as well. It is the early morning of the 15th day of your quest when you open your eyes to the breathtaking spectacle of Hammerdal, the mountain city. The capital of Durenor, unlike the other cities in the Last Landeds, does not need man-made fortifications. The encircling peaks of the Hammerdal range offer a far more secure protection to the people within. The carriage speeds through the lush farmlands surrounding the city with its many towers and wide streets. On a hill in the very centre of Hammerdal stands the King's Tower, a magnificent structure of glass and stone. As the carriage halts at the tower gates, you suddenly realise for the first time that as the wielder of the Sommerswerd, your destiny is to become part of the oldest legend of the Last Lands. King Alin sits alone in his domed tower, viewing his mountain domain through one of the many portals of tinted glass. You and Lord Axim are formally announced as you enter the chamber, and you respectfully bow to his majesty. Then Lord Axim removes the seal of Hammerdal from your fingers and walks over to the king's side. Remember to erase the seal of Hammerdal from your action chart. It has finally been removed from our possession. It was not stolen by fishermen on this playthrough. For nearly an hour they talk, their sombre faces reflecting the seriousness of the situation. There is a short pause of silent meditation, and King Alin suddenly rises from his throne and addresses you for the first time. Alas, the Darklords have awoken once more, and once more does Summerlund come in search of our aid. I have prayed that my reign would be remembered as a time of peace and fulfillment, but in my heart I knew it was to be otherwise. The king removes a golden key from the pocket of his white robe and inserts it into a marble dais standing in the centre of the chamber. A gentle humming fills the room as the stone cover slides back to reveal the hilt of a golden sword. Take the sword, Lone Wolf. It is foretold that only a true son of Sommerlund can release the powers that lie within its blade. You grasp the glowing hilt. As you grasp the glowing hilt, a tingling sensation runs up your arm and radiates throughout your body. We do indeed have the discipline of sixth sense. It is the first one we mastered. The power coursing through your body so overwhelms your senses that you become oblivious to your surroundings. You instinctively raise the blade above your head like fucking He-Man, where a shaft of sunlight suddenly catches upon its very tip and floods the chamber with a blinding white glow. At that moment, the true power of the Sommerswerd is revealed to you, and I'm going to house rule this in a bit. Oh, they do have a note. I'm going to look at this and see. Look, it will. I have a house rule for this, which will make a lot of sense. This weapon was forged long before the Somlending, the Duranese, or the Darklords dwelt in the Last Lands. Its makers were a race that men now call gods. To release the power that it contains, only a Kylord may wield it. Should it be used in combat by anyone who is not a Kai, its blade will fade and be lost forever. When used in combat, the Sommerswerd will add 8 points to your combat skill, 10 points if you possess the Kai discipline of weapon skill with swords. Any swords, I believe, not just, so short sword, broadsword, sword. It has the ability to absorb any magic that is used against its bearer, and it doubles the total of all endurance points lost by undead enemies, such as the Helghasts, in combat. It is the only weapon in all of Magnamund that can kill a Darklord, and for this reason, the Darklords are hell-bent on thwarting your quest. You now realize you hold the only power in Magnamund that can save your people. Slowly, the light starts to fade, and you become aware of Lord Axim's hand upon your shoulder. Come, Lone Wolf. There is much to prepare for your return to Sommerlund. You sheath the Sommersword in its jewelled scabbard and follow Lord Axim as he leaves the King's chamber. Make the necessary adjustments to your combat skill now that you possess the Sommersword. Note the powers of the sword under the special items section of your weapon chart. Now, I'm going to leave this sword behind. And I'm going to make note. So here is my house rule. Lone Wolf does not currently have the weapon skill discipline. If he later gains the weapon skill discipline, and it is with swords, I will upgrade the +8 modifier to a +10. Because we are still using the item, just at a vastly superior power. Furthermore, and I'm going to look at this in a moment. Wait, it's a special item? I have always put it in the weapons section. It says note the powers of the sword under the special items section. It doesn't say write the sword in as a special item. The Sommerswerd is a weapon-like special item. The +10 combat skill bonus referred to for weapon skill is a combination of the +8 combat skill bonus that the Sommerswerd grants naturally and +2 for weapon skill with short sword, sword, or broadsword. Oh. That is not the way it originally read. So this in brackets here, 10 if you possess the Kai discipline of weapon skill with swords. I've always read that to be that the weapon gives you an extra 2 points on top of the 2 you get for weapon skill. Because it implies that it gives you 8 points, or it gives you 10 points if you possess. Not because... Because here's the thing, right? It will add 8 points to your combat skill. If you're already getting the +2 from weapon skill, you don't need to be told that 8, that it adds up to 10. You can already add 2 to 10 yourself. This very much reads like 10 points because your weapon skill, you're essentially doubling your weapon skill bonus. It does not say that if you later gain weapon skill, this will increase. That is my house rule. Furthermore, when we get into the Magna Kai series, when weapon skill is replaced by the weapon mastery discipline, which did not exist when this section was written, I will assume that the 8 points bonus for the Sommerswerd goes up to a 10-point bonus if you have weapon mastery with some kind of sword. And then you would add your weapon mastery bonus on top of that. And this assumption is kind of required for some of the much tougher fights in the series. Let's see what they've written here. The Sommerswerd is a weapon-like special item. The plus 10 combat skill bonus referred to for weapon skill is a combination of the plus 8 combat skill that the Sommerswerd grants naturally, and the plus 2 for weapon skill of a sword, short sword, bow, as each of them grant proficiency of the Sommerswerd. It is not an additional bonus, even though it always seemed to be written that way back in the day. When used in combat, treat it like a one-handed sword regardless of weapon skill bonus. The text or footnotes will always remind you to double your enemy's endurance loss if it is undead. Let me know what you think about those 2 extra points, because the way it's written there, it always felt like that was an extra 2 bonus points for having invested already in that skill. It's like, hey, double reward, you know. And we are definitely opening up that picture, especially for the episode thumbnail. The muster of the army and preparation of the Durinese fleet takes 14 days. Oh my god, that puts us on 29 days. We've only got 11 days left to get back, and it took us 15 to get here. Admittedly, the shipwreck delayed our journey, but even so, we're going to be cutting it really fine. The muster of the army and the preparation of the Durinese fleet takes 14 days to complete, during which time you remain as a guest of the kingdom in Hammerdal. As each day passes, you despair for your besieged countrymen of Holmgard and pray that they have enough strength to resist the Darklords until you return. Each day of your reluctant exile, you devote long periods to exercise and meditation. You are also visited by a Durinese herb warden called Madin Renderlim, who is famous throughout the Lastlands for his knowledge of and skill in the healing arts. He restores all the endurance points you may have lost so far in your adventure, and he gives you a potion of Lormspur, a potent Lormspur potion which will restore 5 endurance points if swallowed after combat. So, he is also the bearer of some sad news. The body of Lord Lieutenant Rygar was found in the forest near the entrance to Tana Lynn. He was killed by a Helghast. I think we would get that message even if we gave him the Silver Spear. We do have the Kai discipline of Sixth Sense. You have noticed during your rigorous training exercises of the Sommerswerd that your Kai discipline of Sixth Sense has become more sensitive than ever before. You knew exactly what Madin Renderlim's sad news was long before he actually told you. You may find that your improved Sixth Sense will be an important advantage upon your return to Holmgard. And speaking of return to Holmgard, I think I'm going to save that for the next session. We've done very well this time, avoided a number of very nasty pitfalls involving the Helghasts, all 9 of them, in fact, well, all 8, because one of them got killed by a Knight of the White Mountain in the previous episode. I'd be interested to know in the comments section what your thoughts are on the revisions to this section at the beginning of the mountains, especially how Project Aeon handles it, which is a hybrid of the 2 versions. And your thoughts on those extra 2 points of combat skill for having weapon skill with swords transferring across to weapon mastery. I can see why the assumption that it... because if those 2 points did not transfer from weapon skill to weapon mastery, I can see why, because I can see a lot of fans saying, well, if we don't get that bonus anymore for weapon mastery, now that we have weapon skill, do we get it? You know, where did it go? And using that as an excuse for it never existing in the first place. But yeah, I'll be interested in your thoughts on that one. So what I'm going to do, actually, is put that as 27 brackets 29. Because I've never before come across anyone claiming that those 2 bonus points don't exist. But that's okay. I'm also not used to... But the Sommerswerd being a special item instead of a weapon does allow you to carry the Sommerswerd, the Silver Bow, and the Dagger of Vashna all at once. And you do kind of need all three of them at some point. I think it's book 7. I can't remember which. There's a point where you need the Dagger of Vashna after book 4. Or book 5. I think it's book 7, maybe book 8. I can't remember which. And it's a major lifesaver. Anyway, that about ends the episode, and we are at section 152. I hope you've all enjoyed this one, and I'll look forward to seeing you all in the very next episode. Until then, everyone, remember, for Sommerlund and the Kai.